Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Power 2 live on the College Football Addiction YouTube channel presented by Sleeper. I'm Tom Hannifan, your host for today, joined by the ineffable Cole Thompson. TJ Pittinger, our fearless leader, is taking a justifiable vacation this week with his family. Happy Thanksgiving to all of you out there. Hope you guys have a great week full of football. We're looking ahead to a lot of the big games this coming weekend. It is rivalry week, so we've got the game, Ohio State and Michigan, the Iron Bowl, Texas and Texas A&M on a killer Friday slate of games. Georgia versus Georgia Tech, which should have some potential ramifications for just a dumb ACC at this point. Yeah. And of course, Lane Kiffin and the Egg Bowl, all those things. But Cole, I really quickly want to sum up some of the scores because you and I are junkies and sickos, and that we'll watch Maction on Tuesday night. So congratulations to Bowling Green, defeating the only college football team that Adam and Brenneman did anything meaningful at, the UMass Minutemen. Western Michigan beat Eastern Michigan. Thursday is going to be an interesting schedule. Navy against Memphis, so that'll be kind of like the nightcap for the NFL day. Plus, Friday night, you get the Egg Bowl, which we'll get to, Ole Miss at Mississippi State, Utah at Kansas, Iowa at Nebraska, which can be critical for Matt Rule, Ohio at Buffalo, Kent State at Northern Illinois, Air Force at Colorado State, which just got Jim Mora as their head coach. That's interesting. Georgia Tech is also on the Friday night slate. That's in Atlanta. San Diego State at New Mexico, and then Temple leaves North Philly to go to North Texas. So some interesting games upcoming. Oh, and there's more. I'm sorry. Boise State.
I'd say a couple more, bud.
Number 2, Indiana at Purdue, the old Oaken Bucket. Texas A&M at Texas in Austin, and then Arizona versus Arizona State. That one at Arizona State. So pretty good slate coming up, dude. What are you going to do with your Thursday, Friday? Just glued to the TV, I guess?
So what's actually funny is that I'm doing Thanksgiving today. Like, we're filming this, and then after we do that, I got to go right into SEC Unfiltered, film a couple more previews, and then I'm doing Thanksgiving tonight because my brother's out in Denver right now, and he only gets 48 hours to come home, so he has to leave tomorrow. So I'm going to be sitting on the couch, crack open a nice cold one, enjoying the game, and listening to all the coaching rumors because you brought up Jim Mora. Eric Morris is now headed off to Stillwater, Oklahoma. Depending on how quickly we see what happens with North Texas, they may get their coach by Sunday. They may get him after the college football playoff. And then Alex Golis supposedly is accepting the job with Arkansas. Let's get a few more sources out there that say, yep, it's a done deal. But I'll tell you what, dude, I was hearing some rumors about names that were getting brought up for the job. Alex Golis, after losing out on Eric Morris, was probably the best option that you had available.
That's a really exciting one. I know you've been high on him for a while, and he was somebody in the general coaching search. Like, we thought he could go pretty high in terms of brands. Somewhere in the middle to bottom of the SEC is obviously a step up from what he's been doing at USF. I like that hire. If that's true, I think that'd be good for Arkansas, but they've got to back it up with the appropriate funding.
Spend the money, dude. Like, that's just and that's kind of okay. Here's the reality, and we don't have to go into too much detail, but if we are speaking about ham and hogs, ham is a really underrated dish at Thanksgiving. Like, I know that we eat turkey, but the ham is actually kind of just scene stealer at this point. Dude, Arkansas, I'm gonna be completely real, man. If you want to have the expectations about being an 8-win team or competing alongside Ole Miss and South Carolina and now Vanderbilt for a college football playoff bid every 3 or 4 years, you got to invest in the program. And I'll give credit to Alex Golis. His offense is really innovative. I think it's going to do wonders for what could be the identity of this team moving forward. But the bottom line is that you can't say, oh, we're going to give you 15% of our revenue distribution when it comes to sports. Get to 9 wins. Like, I'm sorry. Like, nobody should be taking that job if that is the way that Hunter Yurachek is going to go about it. And speaking of Hunter Yurachek, my God, dude, enough with the 6'7" BS. You were in way over your head. How the hell are you even the committee's voice? Like, if you're the voice of what we're seeing for the College Football Playoff Committee, how dumb are the other people? Because it is ridiculously embarrassing listening to the way that him and Reese Davis were talking last night. For the second straight week, Tom. You thought you'd have a little bit of lessons. Maybe you'd have a couple of dialogue coaches. Hey, let's bring in somebody from the outside. Like, let's bring in an advisor. Let's bring in a client. They'll spruce some things up. No, you just decided to go ahead and steer into the skid, and now you're flipping, and you're going 3 to 4 times before that thing comes to a screeching halt.
Well, he called Reese rich on top of that, so he botched the landing. Am I the only one that thinks like the 6-7 phase is done? Like I'm 36. I was on a call recently for one of my many jobs, somebody talking about, oh, we should do 6-7 stuff on social media, really hit that trend. And I'm like, I feel like the trend is kind of on the back end. And then when you get like the olds talking about it, it's like enough. We're done.
Okay, so like I have a couple of young cousins that are really into it. So whenever they're watching the videos, I'll every once in a while just do this. That way they know that they're watching. But like it, it's gonna die out. But we all okay. Here's the thing, dude. Every single generation has one.
Fair.
Like that. Like ours was 69. Like let's be real. Ours was 69. We make that joke still to this day. Theirs is 6-7. I can't crap on it that much because of we all are going to have our one innuendo that only works for our generation. The problem is that theirs is really, really annoying because of it's loud, it's obnoxious, but more specifically, it's the hand gesture. If you didn't have the hand gesture, I think I maybe would be able to live with it. But it's the fact that we have this with it too.
Right. I think I accidentally made it on TV on TNA's upcoming Thursday Thanksgiving special tomorrow night on Impact. So just know that I didn't mean it. I don't care about the trend.
You 100% meant it. That was the entire reason. You're lying to us.
Speaking of the college football playoff rankings, let's touch on those briefly before we get to some of these games. Not a ton of surprises, really. There's a few that we'll get to here, but 1 Ohio State, 2 Indiana, 3 Texas A&M, 4 Georgia, 5 Texas Tech, 6 Oregon, 7 Mississippi, 8 Oklahoma, 9 Notre Dame. That's one of the ones we got to dive into here. 10 Alabama, 11 BYU, 12 Miami, and then just to round out the 4 kind of on the outside looking in, 13 Utah, 14 Vandy, 15 Michigan, 16 Texas. Cole, issues, comments, concerns, questions?
Inside the top 10, it's very clear that they're finding a reason to put out Ole Miss. I think that's abundant. If they lose in the Egg Bowl, they want to say, you don't have a coach. We did this at Florida State. We're going to do it to you. So they move them on out. Utah falling behind Miami is another interesting one because I think they're trying to find a way to guarantee Notre Dame make the playoff, despite Notre Dame not having a signature win, which again, Notre Dame is playing like a top 10 team in college football. I want to make this abundantly clear. They are. But they don't have a signature win the way that BYU does. They actually have a lesser strength of record as BYU. So naturally, the brand does play a big deal. Miami has a better win, in my opinion, than Notre Dame at this point. So you add that into the conversation with the head-to-head narrative. You're trying to find a reason to put them into the playoff picture. So now Utah and Vanderbilt, 2 teams that very well could finish 10-2, are on the outside looking in. Did you notice that Texas only moved up 1 spot and Michigan moved up 1 spots?
Yep.
The committee is telling you, Texas, listen, guys, you had a big year. You had potentially 3 top 10 wins. You definitely have some things you can work on in the offseason, but it's not a bad year. Losing by 25 points to Georgia and then losing to a 3-9 potential Florida team, that's the reason you're not in the college football playoff. The reason we even gave you some benefit of the doubt was you scheduled a tough non-conference game and you only lost by 7 to Ohio State. That is clear as day what they're telling me, in my opinion, on what we're seeing for the college football playoffs. So right now, I think that you got to look at 15 up. Those are the teams that are gunning for a college football playoff berth. And then Virginia and SMU, they're going to be the 2 representatives right now. And Tulane, cool, walking to the party.
Yeah, we'll see if John Summerall departs at some point in the near future. Trying to see what else here. Yeah, obviously the committee is giving Vandy a bit of a chance. Like they're going to need some help. They're going to need some other teams, probably multiple teams to lose. The top 12 if they beat what is currently ranked number 19 Tennessee in Knoxville this weekend. And then Michigan, you beat the number 1 team in the country. Michigan should be in. The rest of their strength of schedule is not really that impressive. The road game against Oklahoma, while that was not a huge margin of victory, was still like, it's a good loss, I guess, on their record. And Texas, to your point, still alive there. Man, yeah, they're giving Notre Dame a lot of love. But again, like, I think this is something we've talked about here on the show a lot. They're going to find the excuse to put Notre Dame in. And as long as Notre Dame doesn't collapse and they only lose 2 games, they should be in a 12-team college football playoff every year. And should is maybe not the right word, but will. Yeah.
Let me ask you, how do you feel about where the playoff stands of who's on the outside looking in if BYU were to pull off an upset against Texas Tech in the Big 12 championship. Because now I don't think you can take out Texas Tech. They would have the head-to-head win in the season, so they're in. You would have 2 Big 12 teams in. Is the easier plan to say, we're going to take out Notre Dame because we're not putting in Miami? Or is the easier plan to say, well, Alabama still has to win the SEC title or they'd have 3 losses and we're not going to put them in?
Alabama with 3 losses would feel tough, especially considering I understand it's the Iron Bowl, Jordan Harris ghosts, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
It's still Alabama losing to what is considered a bad Auburn team. So I don't know if I'd consider that a quote unquote good loss for Alabama. If BYU were to do that and upend Texas Tech in the Big 12 championship, I think they do deserve to get in.
Well, they would be an automatic qualifier.
Of course. Then who do you bump?
But Alabama losing in the SEC title game, a game that wasn't promised, sitting at 10-3, that's the problem. So the easy one would be to end the narrative of we respect head-to-heads is take out Notre Dame. But Notre Dame would be on a 10-game win streak, the brand, the recognition. Is that the easy answer, or is that an answer that we're just not going to talk about because it's Notre Dame?
I think they're not going to talk about it because it's Notre Dame.
Yeah, that's my theory.
Unfortunately.
The way that game goes in Atlanta for Alabama, if they were to lose, I think it's going to be really big. And I do think that the committee last year at least gave us a notion of we will not penalize you for losing your conference title game. Because SMU last season, remember, they were leading, they fell apart, Clemson won, but they only won by 3. Game-winning field goal to walk it off. If Alabama loses by 7, you have 4 wins against top 25 teams in the SEC with the 8th toughest schedule in college football. I don't think they penalize you in that standpoint. Now, if you lose by 21, all bets are off. Mm-hmm. So here we are once again going back to that conversation of what do you do if the whole BYU conundrum happens? The easy ploy is to say, sorry, Notre Dame, if we're going to respect head-to-heads and we're going to respect conference schedules, you're out, BYU's in. So what's interesting right now is that being in the top 10 does not guarantee, even with the win this weekend, that you're safe because of the BYU conundrum.
There's a lot of these 2-loss teams, too, that could make things interesting. Like, for instance, if Oregon were to somehow get upset by Washington this weekend.
Dude, they'd be out. If Michigan wins, because remember, if Oregon wins and Michigan wins, Oregon goes to the Big Ten title game. If Oregon loses and Michigan wins, Michigan goes to the Big Ten title game. I don't think you can leave out the runner-up of the Big Ten.
I agree.
So that solves a problem right there. Then you go back to the whole conversation of what was the whole thing going into last week about Oregon? Does Oregon have a signature win? Yeah, it's against Penn State. Okay, well, Penn State hasn't hauled up its end of the bargain.
Yep.
Well, now USC is the signature win. Okay, but you also have a loss to Washington. Washington's a good team. Washington's a very solid team. You and I both said 9-10 win season was in the works for them this year. They win on Saturday. It's a 9-win season. But then you have to throw in, okay, well, Alabama's not being taken out. Oklahoma, in my opinion, if they're 10-2, they are probably the most deserving 2-loss team because of their schedule this season. So that's a lock on in. You're not penalizing a team like Texas Tech for being 11-1 in the regular season and then losing a conference title game. Oregon feels like a team that also needs to win this weekend simply because I think if you don't win and Michigan does, that takes your spot in the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm. Get in the comments section here. We are live on YouTube if you're checking us out on social media right now. X does not acknowledge a lot of the likes and stuff like that. So hop on YouTube, subscribe, like us. We appreciate it. We're going to get to a couple of the games here. Let's start off with the game, one we've been talking about quite a bit already. Ohio State versus Michigan. This one is in Ann Arbor. Michigan has beaten Ohio State 4 consecutive years. Earlier on this season, Cole, it felt like you had every reason to believe Ohio State would change the narrative this year. It just looked like a juggernaut, and Michigan was struggling to ultimately survive a lot of different games. And it's not to say that Michigan has gotten into a position where they're absolutely rolling at this point, but I think Bryce Underwood, now with basically a full season under his belt, knows what he is. The team knows what his strengths and weaknesses are. They're working around it. Even losing Justice Haynes, they keep on moving. They found a few more options in the passing game. This is still closer to a service academy offense, and that they're going to run the ball, time of possession, field position are going to be important. They need to stay on schedule. They need to be ahead in the score. If they need to make up multiple scores, it's really difficult for Michigan to come back. Ohio State, for me, man, watching them against Rutgers, granted, they won that game 42-9, but it was 14-3 at halftime. Julian Sand finished the game 13 of 19 for less than 200 yards passing, 1 passing touchdown. He was without the 2 aliens known as Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate, who were both out due to injury. And it remains to be seen if both of them are going to be a full go this weekend. I don't know if you have any different information on that, but I would assume, considering the gravity of the game, that both Tate and Jeremiah would give it a go this week.
They're going to play. They may be limited, but they will play. You know that.
Right. So Julian Sand in that passing game looked limited, to use your word, against Rutgers for most of that game. Max Clare was the primary target. He had 7 catches in that game. Brandon Innes, who has been banged up a little bit this year, they tried to get him involved, but he really didn't do much in the passing game. So it just kind of made you wonder about this Ohio State team if you don't have Jeremiah and Tate doing their thing. What's your perspective on this game? Do you think Michigan makes it 5 in a row?
They could. I mean, let's just call it as is, dude. Until proven otherwise, Michigan has a shot in this game because they've owned this game. That has just been the bottom line. They've been really good on third down. They started finding an identity offensively last week. The 25-point win against Maryland was the best win of the year for Michigan in terms of point differentials. And they're winning in more ways than just trusting the militant ground and pound attack. They're able to get the ball out in space. They're able to make plays with the wide receivers. Tight end play has been really phenomenal at this point. And defensively, they're forcing a lot of minimal contact after yards gained. So those are things that Michigan can do really well. And the game is in Ann Arbor. So it's like another thing that you get to have in your back pocket of, listen, they come into our house. We're fighting for a college football playoff berth. We know how good we've been offensively as of late. And we know that right now we are hitting our stride at the right time. It reminds me a lot of like Notre Dame last season when they started to figure out what their identity was on both sides of the ball. And at that point, the only thing that was standing in their way of winning was themselves, and they didn't get in their way. They were able to capitalize defensively. They were able to force a lot of turnovers. So if Michigan can play physical at the line of scrimmage, especially when it's going up against the wide receivers, Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate, and kind of force Julian Sand to have that epiphany moment of what it takes to truly win at the highest level in the Big Ten, they absolutely can win this football game. On the flip side, though, what I look at is this will be the first time really all season where it does feel like for Julian Sand, you have to have that it moment. Mm-hmm. And you had 12 games to prepare for this one game. You and I both understand the world of college football. There is a 12-game season that has already been played for both of the, I mean, there's an 11-game season that's already been played for both these squads. There's a 1-game season on the horizon. It's 60 minutes. This is what you prepare for all year long. And there's fans who will be frustrated, dismayed, beyond angered, especially on the Ohio State side, if you do not find a way to win. Because as much as they care about winning the national title, they love to beat Michigan. Like, I'm an SEC dude, and I'll be completely real. I think the best rivalry in college football is probably the game. It just is. Now, I'm not Joel Klatt. I'm not going to say it's not in the same stratosphere as the game, because that would be ridiculous. But this is the best game because it's the most iconic game between two brands that constantly find themselves in the race for the college football playoff. When I look at Ohio State, do you have something in store for Ryan Day and Brian Hartline that you haven't unveiled just yet? Because that's a really interesting pinpoint of, you can study the tape all you want. A team like Ohio State usually should have something saved for a team like Michigan, just to throw them off their beaten path. In a year where you haven't won against this team in 5 seasons, where Michigan won a national title for beating you, Michigan went to the college football playoff back-to-back years for beating you, Michigan went to their top. Michigan went to their top pass stack. Like, I want to see them be able to be a balanced approach and something that we have yet to unveil up to this point in the season.
The thing for me is, to your point, Julian Sand had 3 consecutive 300-plus yard passing games, 9 touchdowns in those games. And then his guys, 4 and 17, were unavailable, and all of a sudden he looked human. So I don't want to hear the Julian Sand for Heisman conversation anymore. He's maybe the sixth or seventh best player on his team. Forgive me for using the stupid 6'7" stuff. I'll say eighth or ninth, whatever. Like there's a bunch of guys on that Ohio State team that are better than Julian Sayin. So I don't think he should be getting the Heisman this year. That being said, he's somehow still in the running. If this game is put on Julian Sayin and Tate and Smith are somehow limited, there's going to be a real problem for Ohio State, I think, because they are not the dominant rushing threat that they were last year. And also, we all remember last year, Ryan Day, with Chip Kelly as the offensive coordinator, were attempting to make some sort of statement that they too could be as physical as Michigan. And Michigan just popped them right back in the mouth. I think Michigan is prepared to do that again this year. But if Sayin and the passing game are potent enough, I don't think this Michigan secondary can hang with Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, Max Clare, Brandon Ennis. The list goes on and on of all the threats they can put out there. Frankly, I think the only secondaries in the country that can hang with the Ohio State passing game are Ohio State's own secondary and maybe Oregon's. And like that feels like a bit of a stretch to me, Cole. Looking at these coaches, one, do you think Ryan Day will make the same mistake he made philosophically last year? And if Michigan were to lose this game badly, what's the outcome for Sharon Moore?
Nothing for Sharon Moore. I will say this, and I will push back a little bit. They only ran it 26 times last year compared to 33 pass attempts. So they did throw it more than they ran it. The problem was they realized that the rushing attack wasn't working and they still went back to the well. That was where there was the really big
late too, very late.
Yeah. So that was where the difference was in the game, is that they tried when you knew that you probably need to be in pass situations, you decided to run it. And that was the physical approach. But to be fair, they did throw it more than they ran it last year. I think for Sharon Moore, it means nothing. You're going to be guaranteed another year. You kind of have to be guaranteed another year because part of the reason why this staff is in place and this you have a good up-and-coming recruiting class and it's an easy selling point of Bryce Underwood getting a lot of pieces built around him is because Sharon Moore was able to get the job done and bring in the right personnel to put Bryce Underwood in a position where he could be successful. So he won't be fired. He'll be scrutinized going into his third season. That's for dang sure. But it won't be at the point of, I mean, you look at this Michigan team, most of us said 8-4. Guarantee that doesn't happen. You will at least be 9-3, if not 10-2 in the college football playoff hunt. So that again shows that he is, I think, the right guy for the job. You're just missing some elements to it. This is, in my opinion, also going to be a Bryce Underwood game. Like, as much as we talk about Julian saying this has to be Bryce Underwood, because what do we know about Michigan? They're a top 12 rushing offense in the country. They love to run the football, and they have designed runs with 19. You're going up against a top 10 run defense. I mean, we do not give enough respect, I think, for how well the run defense has been for Ohio State this year when the passing of defense has been elite because of what you got in the back end and the back seven. So this will be a Bryce Underwood game. How quickly can you develop a rapport in the passing attack? Can you win on third down? I'm going to be looking at the stat line of both tight ends because if these young quarterbacks want to have a security blanket, the tight end is a security blanket. Who finishes with more targets? Who finishes with more catches? Who finishes with more receptions? Whichever one does that, I feel like they're going to be the one to end up winning the football game. And I think that special teams may be a very, very, very underrated part of this matchup simply because you want to get in field goal range. 3 points could be the difference between going home with an undefeated season or being in the college football playoff hunt.
According to Vegas, Ohio State is favored by 9.5, over under 43.5 at the time of this show. Our good buddy TJ Pittinger has already sent in his picks for this weekend. TJ is taking Ohio State 24-21. That range feels good. What do you think?
That's right. I mean, that's where I take the range. What are you going with?
I do think Michigan covers, but I think Ohio State, if you have Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate not as limited as they have been the last few weeks, like just doing enough to get by in this thing, you should be all right. It's supposed to be kind of cold, nasty conditions in Ann Arbor, as you would expect this time of year, but I still favor Ohio State. I think it's going to be pretty narrow. I'm going to say 23-20.
I got to see it. I got to see them do it.
Yeah.
In Ann Arbor, you're fighting for the college football playoff. You found your identity last week. Michigan 23, Ohio State 21.
I'm excited to see this one. I really do think this is a coin flip game. Like, it really is that close.
Do you keep Michigan out of the college football playoff if they beat the number one team in the country?
I don't think you can. I don't think you can. With 2 losses and you beat the number 1 team, like, if Tate and Smith are playing, and if it's like they're playing and there's no sign that they're, like, really hampered by injury or something like that, then, yeah, you have to put them in. If one of them plays, if neither of them play, like, the expectation right now, I believe, is that Tate and Smith are gonna give it a go. But they've been sitting Tate the last handful of weeks. Smith was on the sideline last week against Rutgers, but he looked hobbled. So I think that's a big question mark, but this is still an Ohio State team that can kill you from a lot of different directions.
I believe personally you will be left out if you beat the number 1 team in the country unless there is chaos. What I will say is if you beat the number 1 team in the country, you now have the best argument of all the 10-2 teams that currently are on the outside looking in. That is where I will go.
Let's give a little bit of love to our sponsors, Sleeper. We appreciate Sleeper for their support. We invite you to use the code CFA for a 100% match up to $100 on the Sleeper app. Let's take a look at some of the options going into this weekend, TJ. We've got Texas A&M quarterback Marcel Reed at Texas this Friday night. More or less 1.5 passing touchdowns.
I'll go more. The weakness of Texas so far this season has been its secondary. I think that you have 2 elite wide receivers who are playing at the right time. Even though Mario Craver's not fully healthy, I still think you find the end zone twice.
I'm going to say more as well. I do think this is maybe more of a defensive struggle. Texas, to the points that we said, still has like a really narrow, slim path, but they have to play their best defensive game of the season. And we know how much Texas and A&M just hate each other. Staying on that path, Arch Manning, Texas quarterback against Texas A&M, more or less 242 and a half passing yards.
I still think it's gonna be more. I don't know why, but I just feel like the way that Arch is playing, like we gotta get past the narrative of what he did in week 1. He's been one of the better quarterbacks in the SEC since the start of November. So yeah, I think 244 that's a very easy number to say the over's gonna hit.
I'm going to say more. The running game has still not been there. It's still not been consistent enough for Texas to really hang its hat on. And even if this is a situation where Marcel Reed goes off, he has his weapons, and Texas A&M is able to hang some points on the Longhorns, you're still going to see a situation where Arch Manning is throwing in garbage time just to try and make up ground. So give me more 242 and a half passing yards for Arch. Speaking of SEC quarterbacks, Vanderbilt's Diego Pavia, the last hurrah in the regular season as a Commodore, barring some major lawsuit that he's able to win. Probably won't win it. At Tennessee, 262 and a half passing yards for Pavia, more or less.
This is the 113th ranked pass defense in the country. I will take the more.
Agreed. And especially now, last week it was a little different. He was going for stat padding. This will be different. Winning at Neyland, never easy. I understand the point that you're saying there, but give me more with Pavia. I think they should be able to do it. Whether they win the game outright, what do you feel like?
Well, okay. Oh, we haven't talked about this game. I'm taking Vandy to win. I'm taking Vandy to win.
Vandy? Yeah,
I am. But like, think about this, Tom. Remember when we had the Texas game and I picked him to hit the over of like 198?
Yeah,
and he went for like 368.
Yeah.
Even if it's garbage time, it's still points that you have. So again, that may be it. You listen, here's the bottom line. If you're down by 14, you're gonna have to throw. And so that's where Pavia is gonna have to show off that he can actually connect.
Sticking quarterbacks, Ohio State quarterback Julian Sayin at Michigan, more or less 242 and a half passing yards.
You're right on that line. Like that's
right.
Like, if this was 250, I would take the less.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take the more. But I don't feel comfortable about taking the more.
Because they can get chunk plays when Smith and Tate are doing their thing. He can hit 300 almost with his eyes closed. The deep ball is there. You just tell these guys to run past everybody they're playing against. So it really depends on the health of Smith and Tate. I'm going to say less, to the point that you were making before. I could see this being 241 yards, and it could be that close. But also, if Smith and Tate are not that great, if they are hobbled, if they're slowed up, this could be a weak game for Julian Sayin, and it's the Ohio State passing game struggling just to get things by. So I'll go with less for Sayin. Going back to the SEC, going back to the Texas A&M Texas game, Casey Concepcion, wide receiver for the Aggies, 0.5 anytime touchdowns, more or less.
More. Absolutely. He will find his way into the end zone in some capacity. And remember, this is a dude that has scored 2 punt return touchdowns this year. So I think special teams, knowing what Ryan Niblett does, knowing what Casey Concepcion does, that's an underlying story of what could be the reason why one of these teams walks away with the dub.
And I will also say more for Concepcion. I like that pick. And then the last one here, John Mateer, quarterback for Oklahoma, hosting LSU this Saturday at 3:30 p.m., 198.5 passing yards for Mateer.
Oklahoma's going to go to the college football playoff. They are not getting 198 passing yards. Less. Far and away less.
I am going to say less as well. The Iowa of the SEC, Oklahoma, I think they make it to the college football playoff. I do think LSU makes it tough for them.
Do you really?
Just because it's, hey, last game of the year, can't hold anything back now.
Thank you, Dan Fouts. I appreciate that. But no.
Do it for your boy BK, Kenzel Kelly.
I don't think I've watched this offense back-to-back weeks. I was horrified. Yeah. You were trailing 3-0 with Michael Van Buren of Western Kentucky.
But to that point, is this just good on good defense versus defense in that respect?
Yeah, but all you need is 1 pick 6 from Oklahoma's defense, and that's all you could get.
Fair point. Again, we appreciate Sleeper for their support. Use CFA, promo code CFA, for a 100% matchup up to $100 on the Sleeper app for all the college football this weekend. Moving on with the slate of games, the Iron Bowl, Alabama at Auburn. This has been a bad Auburn team, as we talked about this season, but you kind of throw that stuff out the window in this game. We talked about a little bit before when it comes to college football playoff rankings, Cole, is that I don't think there's a way the committee would look at this as anything other than a bad loss for Alabama, despite it being the Iron Bowl. I think that'll get brought up. Yes, it's a rivalry. Jordan-Hare Stadium is spooky. Crazy things can happen. But still, this would be Alabama falling to a losing Auburn team so far this season. And there's just been these head scratchers with Alabama all season long. So very similar to the game. This also feels like a coin flip to me.
It can be because it's at Jordan-Hare. By the way, we in the South call it Jordan-Hare. It's not Jordan-Hare.
I'm sorry. I'm from Pennsylvania. Yeah.
Exactly, you Yankee. No, listen, this truly is a house of horrors for Alabama, and it always will be. Like, you got to ask yourself, when Nick Saban says that Jordan-Hare is such a daunting place to play and I have nightmares of it, you have to respect it. And it's because of every single time that Alabama faces off against Auburn in the Iron Bowl in Tuscaloosa, Alabama wins. Outside of the comeback, they don't lose in Bryant-Denny. Good team, bad team, they find a way to get the job done. When they go travel to Jordan-Hare, a place where the Voodoo Shaman Man has yet to make his yearly appearance like he did last season in a 4-overtime game against Texas A&M, weird stuff happens. It just does. Whether it be Bo Nix is able to go out-duel both the Mac Jones and Tua Tagovailoa, whether it be Jarrett Stidham getting a win, whether it be Gus Malzahn, the kick 6 we can talk about. There's so many other games that have occurred. The 4-overtime matchup, the 4th and 31 2 years ago. Like, Alabama, for some reason, has struggles there. And I will say that Jordan-Hare is not the most toxic environment in college football, but on Saturday night, it will 100% be. Because, Tom, it's not just Alabama making the college football playoff. It's Auburn fighting for bowl eligibility and DJ Durkin, your favorite guy, fighting for a head coaching job. There is still rumors and speculation that the Boosters would love to just say, rip off the interim tag, keep as many of this defensive players here as possible, go out and bring in a new OC, and we're going to run the show this way. But you got to get a win over a Power 4 team. You didn't do it against Vanderbilt, so now you got to do it in the Iron Bowl. What I look at in this matchup more than anything else is Alabama's offense. Alabama has started to fall off a little bit. And I think that it's fair to say, well, you can't really talk about the rushing attack. I'm not. I'm talking about Ty Simpson has really started to lose a bit of his luster. You know, accurate passes that were right on the money against Georgia, where you were 11 of 11 on third down conversions to begin the game. They're now overshots. You looked fantastic at times against Missouri in the passing game, especially in the short to intermediate part. You're missing wide open targets. I mean, you go back to that matchup against Oklahoma. Oklahoma was able to kind of just put Ty Simpson in a blender of concerns on really critical drives. And that's maybe all Auburn has to do. Like, Ty Simpson can throw for 355 yards. It's not going to matter if he only finds the end zone twice. I wonder what you're going to see from the pressure in this game, because Auburn right now, the strength of Alabama is the weakness of Auburn, and the strength of Auburn is the weakness of Alabama. So one team is really good at the run defense. One team is really terrible at running the football. One team is really good at passing the football. One team struggles in the pass defense. So Alabama is going to have to trust Ty Simpson to kind of go out and win this football game for them. But at the same token, the pass rush for Auburn could get after Ty Simpson and make him throw errant plays to where right place at the right time. Xavier Atkins, a really underrated linebacker, is taking it back to the house for an easy pick six, and that might be all she wrote. I mean, like, again, Oklahoma, they didn't do anything that was really impressive offensively, and they didn't have to because they capitalized on Alabama's mistakes. Can Auburn do the same thing? Ashton Daniels is going to start for Auburn. The last time we saw him throw was for over 300 yards against Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's not a good defense in terms of the secondary. They are one of the worst secondaries in college football this year. So that is a way to beat up on Vanderbilt. Alabama has a top 5 secondary. Can you beat up on this secondary that has gone toe-to-toe with multiple talented wide receivers and done a good job of eliminating big-time plays to teams like Georgia and teams like Tennessee and teams like Missouri that all know how to throw the football downfield? That's where you got to ask yourself, what is going to be the time of conversion? I look at this game, I think this is a big-time matchup in favor of Cam Coleman. He is going to have to win his one-on-ones against Dijon Lee and against Amani Jackson. I think on the flip side, Josh Cuevas, the tight end, Josh Cuevas, tight end, he's slowly moved up and become a very big security blanket for Alabama, and especially, Ty Simpson. I think in the preview when we broke down Oklahoma, I said, tell me the stat line of Josh Cuevas, and I will tell you if Alabama wins. Well, he led the team in receptions, he led the team in receiving yards, and they still found a way to lose the game. So I don't know if that's going to be the only stat, but I'll tell you that will be the one that I'm paying most attention to. Third down conversion is going to be really big in this matchup. Turnover ratio is going to be really big in this matchup. I think also Auburn setting the tone early in this matchup by getting a strike on the opening drive. That will be a pretty good way to set the tone. At the end of the day, it still is Alabama, but it's the Iron Bowl. It's the Iron Bowl in Jordan Hare, and it's the night game. And on top of that, it is the very last game of the SEC season. You think for 1 second the college football gods have not looked down on what happens inside of that hostile place and go, we're just going to make this a blowout for Alabama? No, they're going to have to claw their way towards proving they belong inside the college football playoff margin.
I'm seeing in the comments section here our good buddy Paul saying Deuce is the quarterback at Auburn. Go War Damn Eagle. To your point about Ashton Daniels, expected to be the guy this weekend. So I think that's one question I have is how many quarterbacks do we see from Auburn against Alabama?
2. I think you're going to have to. I think that you're going to have to take a playbook out of Lane Kiffin style where he'll line up Austin Simmons under center and Trinidad Chambliss will be wide out. And that's a handoff on a jet sweep. No, it's not. He's behind the line of scrimmage, plants his foot, goes the other way. It's trickery, it's manipulation, it's being able to catch Alabama slipping at the right time. I mean, dude, they have weapons. Like Auburn, whether or not you want to say, is a team that is never able to meet the big expectations, and they haven't for a while. Like, this isn't something new. They always bring in the right type of recruits. The way they develop them has always been the problem, but I mean, Cam Coleman is a top 5 wide receiver in college football when he's fully healthy. Eric Singleton is a stud and a speedster in space. You still got really good play in guys like Perry Thompson and Kane, and then you could also throw in Malcolm Simmons. There's a slew of names that can really beat you, and then Jeremiah Cobb out of the backfield can easily be able to put on the brakes, and he's got some physicality to his running style. So I think that you will see Deuce Knight out there. What I'll be interested in is, are we sending Deuce Knight out as the passer to where he takes the jet sweep and now he's throwing the football downfield? Because I don't know if you watched the Mercer game. They were trailing at one point, and then third quarter comes around, and dude, I don't know. You look at how he played. Deuce Knight's got something in him to where whoever is the next head coach at Auburn, priority number 1, make sure that he does not leave for a better NIL deal elsewhere. Like, that's it. So I'm telling you, there's going to be a reason to believe that he is going to play in this game.
Yeah, I would expect to see both. I mean, even Jackson Arnold got a little run against Mercer. So, like, putting it into perspective, it was Mercer last week that a lot of Auburn fans are freaking out about Deuce Knight. And his only other performance this year was against Ball State. So, this would be a huge step up in competition and in pressure. 6 touchdowns. Was it close to 500 yards of offense in total for Deuce Knight? It was a pretty impressive outing against Mercer. So is he able to do something similar with limited opportunities? Let's pick this one. We actually don't have a pick from TJ in this one. He missed that one just in the handful of games we were talking about. But as of this recording, let me see what the spread is. I think it's 6.5 in favor of Alabama with an over under 46.5. What do you feel?
As much as I do believe that this is a house of horrors for Alabama, this is still a team that I trust. And better yet, at the end of the day, I look at the quarterback position. Who do I think is better? Deuce Knight or a seasoned guy like Ty Simpson that has been starting to lose a little bit of luster, but still has proven that he is a top 5 quarterback in college football this year. Alabama wins, Alabama covers. It's going to be a late cover, but I think that they're able to march on into Jordan-Hare. They get a 27-21 victory.
I was going to say 27-17, so kind of like right in that ballpark. I think Alabama covers this situation here, but yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to be a competitive game. To your point, this hopefully is something that goes into the fourth quarter and is close. I think just for the sake of us as fans. So
they're not out of the woods yet, though, if they are to win, because you still have to make it a competitive matchup against Texas A&M or Georgia, depending on what happens in those 2 games.
Yeah. Texas hosting Texas A&M. I believe that I said that's part of the Friday night slate.
Yep, Friday night.
Really good Friday night slate. I'm excited about this. This will have ramifications for the upper echelon of the college football playoff, as we talked about. There's still those who are like, hey, Texas is a path. They would have to upset Texas A&M in order to do that. You said it, and I am very much in agreement. And I've said it before on this show, is the predictions from idiots like Paul Feinbaum and other people that said Arch Manning was going to win the Heisman for the 2025 season. I just think they got the year wrong. I don't think it's going to be necessarily 26, could be 27. I think there's a window for him, but he has gotten better every single game that he has played. That offense has found things that work for them. The running game is still a challenge. This is a damn good front four for Texas A&M. I love watching this pass rush. I love watching this team in general. I think Marcel Reed has been another quarterback within the SEC and college football as a whole who stepped up his game. He was a dude last year in this very game. Texas A&M was terrified to have him throw the football, and it was a defensive battle all the way down to the end. Texas showed what their mettle was. I think that was safe to say a better Texas team than what we're going to see on Friday night. But what do you think is the deciding factor in this game? Do you think this is close on the scoreboard? Does it turn into a track meet, a one-sided track meet with Texas A&M?
Look, to be fair, I don't think that A&M was terrified to let Marcel Reed throw the football. I think Marcel Reed was terrified to make the mistake. I think that's probably a better way to put it. And
it was one read and move.
And trust me, I talked to some people on the staff. I talked to some people who are very much in the know with that program, and they all agree that there were moments where you could just see he wasn't comfortable and he overthought it. He won't be overthinking in this matchup. He's got over 13 starts at this point in his career. He's very well on his way to make it to New York City as a Heisman finalist. A game like this and then a game like what they would do in the SEC Championship could very much lock it on up for him for how well he's been able to play. Now, trust me, he had his Heisman moment against South Carolina, but he also had to cause that Heisman moment by being down by 3 scores and then marching the greatest comeback in Texas A&M football history. So what's going to win this game, in my opinion, is which quarterback makes the fewer mental mistakes in the first half. I think that both these teams are able to respond in dramatic fashion. But the last thing that you want to do is being down by 14 because of it's a pick 6 from Arch Manning or it's a fumble and a scoop and score against Marcel Reed. And now you're having to kind of scramble and make some plays to where you got to go for it on 4th down. I think tempo is going to be really, really important in this matchup. For Texas, what I think is going to be interesting is how quickly does Arch Manning start utilizing his legs? Because of the athleticism to be able to meet past the line of scrimmage, that might be an area to where if you can get past Torian York and Cassius Howell, you're in the open field. You may slide, but you're sliding for a 1st down and you're hitting reset on the chains and you're able to put your offense in a better position to now force Jay Bateman and Mike Elko to have to play near the line of scrimmage. And then you take your deep shots in the one-on-one coverage downfield, which is why I think the over is going to hit. I mean, with the more is going to hit in his passing yards. For Marcel Reed, what I look at is, do you have to run? Like, you have so many options here that you can trust when it comes to the offensive personnel. And it's not like A&M isn't going to trust its rushing attack with with a Reed, but you don't have to trust Reed. I mean, look at just the numbers of what you've seen this season without a guy in Le'Veon Moss, who I think truly, when he's at his peak, is the second best running back in the SEC behind Ahmad Hardy. I mean, they've been able to run it with Jamorian Morrow, and they've been able to run it with Amari Daniels, and Ruben Owens is making plays. And the play action pass has really worked well for them. I do think that this is going to be a game where you're not going to see a lot of maybe Mario Craver and Casey Concepcion. You got to get the ball out to, I think, guys like Ashton Roman Bethel and Terry Bussey, maybe even Nate Borkacher, the tight end position. Thor, big Swedish tight end, is another name that you want to look at. If Marcel Reed can stay in the pocket and he's able to make these easy throws downfield, eventually what it's going to do is they're going to have to play in man coverage, or better yet, they're going to have to play in zone coverage to have somebody from Texas defense at every single level. So what does that do, Tom? That creates opportunities for you to rush open, have secretive quarterback design runs, and then pick up first downs. So if you can really win in the pocket, they're eventually going to have to switch up their defense to where that leads to where Texas A&M is eventually going to have a more dynamic offensive passing approach. I think on the flip side, when it comes to the defensive performances, Texas has got to rush Marcel Reed. They have got to take away the rushing attack because their secondary has hurt them this year. It is not an elite unit. It is a very young unit that does feature some guys that probably need to be a little bit more seasoned. You've dealt with some injuries with Jelani McDonald and Mookie Taft. They've allowed explosive plays. This is a team that has explosive wide receivers. On the flip side, if you're Cassius Howell, if you are Albert Regis, if you are Rylan Kennedy, if you are TJ Searcy, I think that you want to make Texas have to run the football. So I think in the flip side, maybe you're only rushing 3 and you're playing 7 in the field to take away the element of what is the arm of Arch Manning. Because so far, the arm of Arch Manning has been what's been beating teams over the last few weeks. Now, he does run the football extremely well. He caught a pass last week. He's the first Manning in SEC history to have a passing touchdown, a receiving touchdown, and a throwing touchdown all in the same game. But if you can take away his passing element, which has been kind of his calling card as of late, and his attentiveness to the detail of finding reads and working in the RPO systems and making timely decisions, that may end up being a reason why you believe that Texas A&M is going to walk on into DKR for the first time since 2010 and get a win. And by the way, the last time that they were in DKR, they also won the football game.
How much help does Texas need to actually make the college football playoff? Like I said, it feels like a sliver of a chance. Like, one, you would have to beat what is a really good Texas A&M team. And two, you'd need Bama to go down. You would need Miami to blow it. You would need Vandy to lose. You need Michigan to lose. Like, you need a lot of things. You need a hell of a parlay to win this thing.
I'll be completely honest, Tom. If you're a Texas fan, if your thought process is winning this to get to the college football playoff, you've already lost the game.
Yeah.
You've already lost the game. Your thought process should be, this is little brother in our eyes. This has always been little brother in our eyes. We do not respect Texas A&M. We pity Texas A&M. They were so sick and tired of losing to us that they decided to leave for the SEC and not stay in the Big 12. They broke up the rivalry because they were done. That should be your motive. This is a team that is coming in at 11-0. They can make history for the first time in over 3 decades. They're trying to punch their ticket to go to their first conference championship, a game that you've already played in 1 year into this, 1 year into the conference and the rivalry renewal. Your entire thought process should be, we still run the state. We still own you. It doesn't matter what our records say. We're supposed to be the one that comes out on top. And that should be the only thing that you're thinking about in this matchup. Not chaos for the college football playoff, not who needs to lose. Because if your entire focus is on who needs to lose, you're not focusing in on the fact that you need to win. That is really the difference in this matchup. And of course, guys, this has all the potential to be one of the best rivalries in the SEC because it was one of the best rivalries in college football when it was played up until 2011. And as somebody that grew up in this state, and somebody that has watched these games, as somebody who has been to these games, and somebody that remembers how impactful it was on Thanksgiving, damn it, it should be about beating the team that is in Austin or beating the team that's in College Station. It should not be about making a run to the playoff or keeping our national title hopes alive. Your Super Bowl should be winning in their backyard or taking them in or taking them in your home turf and playing in that matchup. If you're going about it in any other way, Texas, I'm sorry, you've already lost before you've even won.
Thing that's interesting to me is Vegas is disrespecting Texas A&M, I think, in this.
By a lot.
It's 2.5 in favor of A&M, over under 51.5. I don't think there's a world where Texas covers this.
There's a world where Texas covers this if they win, and they can win.
I know that, but it's slim that they actually win it and win it by that much.
See, this is one of those rivalry games, much like the Iron Bowl when it's played in Jordan-Hare, and much like the game that you throw logic out. I mean, whoever has the ball last and whoever is playing with momentum in the final 15 minutes, they're going to win the football game. That being said, Texas A&M is going to go into DKR. They're going to win this game. I think it's a 27-21 finish. They're going to win and they're going to cover.
I'm going to go kind of big in that I think it's A&M 38-20.
Wow.
I think A&M put some points on them. Here's the interesting thing. Our buddy TJ did send in a pick for this one. He's got the Longhorns with the upset, 27-20.
I'm not shocked. Again, I'm not. I'm telling you.
Anything can happen.
I've seen this game play out before. I've seen worse Texas A&M teams march on into DKR and win this. I've seen sub 500 Texas teams be able to win this matchup. It's something about rivalry week. You got to take it into advance.
It's the sad thing about where we are in the college football calendar is that today is the first day since October 7th that we don't have any football to watch. And this is the last weekend of the regular season. And as quickly as college football gets here, it leaves. So we're all going to be real sad very soon. So I'm very excited about this weekend in general. Everything.
Don't make me sad, man.
I know. I'm sad. Like from a work standpoint, I think we'll all be grateful to get some sleep. But at the same time, I am going to miss this desperately.
All right. Well, then we get to go to bowl games. And there we go. We get to overreact to a team losing because of 17 of their starters were out.
We get to go to the Cheez-It Bowl in Orlando. Let's talk about clean, old-fashioned hate. Georgia at Georgia Tech. I don't love this one for the Jackets, man. I understand, again, everything we've talked about with rivalry weekend. Right now, Georgia is favored by 13.5 with an over-under of 59.5. Last 3 games, Georgia Tech has just looked like they've been disintegrating a little bit. They're 1-2 in their last 3 games, 2 of which were on the road, but you lost at NC State 48-36 to snap your undefeated season. You snuck by BC up in Boston 36-34.
You made a major comeback in that one.
Made a major comeback. And again, like Notre Dame also struggled at BC. So that's not necessarily something that you look at the teams in the upper echelon and say, well, this is an anomaly. It's BC plays tough at home. And then you beat Pitt 42-28 your last time out. You lost to Pitt, 42-28 your last time out. Pitt obviously has showed some muscle in the last few weeks and is trying to sneak into the college football playoff, and there's a chance they can still do that. I do not love this matchup. It just feels like, I've said it all season long, that this Georgia team knows how to finish. They might have instances where they'll give up some points. They might have instances where they have to come from behind, but they don't blink. They are the toughest out in college football this season. I, as a fan, am dying to see Texas A&M versus Georgia in the SEC championship game. I think that's the heavyweight matchup that college football fans deserve to see in that game, but we'll see how this entire weekend plays out. Does Georgia Tech have enough juice to beat the monster?
For starters, no, you do not wish to see Georgia and Texas A&M go play in the SEC title game because that means you hope Alabama loses in the Iron Bowl.
Yeah, I know, but I do want to see the game. I still want to see it.
Why do I have to suffer because your and TJ's team are no longer playing for anything?
Hey, wait a minute. Penn State's playing for bowl eligibility if they beat Rutgers this weekend.
I think so is TJ. I think so is Florida State.
It's rough. It's rough right now for us state schools. But does Tech have enough to actually take down this Georgia team? Because, like, to your point, Alabama had the recipe. I don't know if Georgia Tech has the firepower to do it.
Well, it's, to me, not about their offensive side. I mean, Haynes King still very much could be in the Heisman Trophy conversation if they were to win this matchup, simply because he is the offense. I mean, he has 15 rushing touchdowns against 12 passing touchdowns. I mean, that shows you how much this man is basically like the Black Knight in Monty Python in the Quest for the Holy Grail of never being willing to quit and give up his entire body until he crosses the goal line. I don't know what does. So, they could usually have that. The problem is, Tom, they've given up 124 points in their last 12 quarters to NC State, that just got bowl eligibility by beating TJ's team, Boston College, that is more so focused on what's up Trevor doing versus what's going on the football field, and Pitt, that openly said last week, it doesn't matter about the Notre Dame game. We just got to beat Georgia Tech. They've given up over 1,600 yards of offense to all three of those teams. None of those teams going into their matchups were in the top 30 in scoring. So that tells you everything that you need to know about how horrendous this defense has been. And what do we know about Georgia? Well, Georgia this year has had its struggles defensively, but offensively, they've been able to manage it. Kind of the best beauty of what has been Georgia's recipe to withstand slow starts in their defense is having fast starts in their offense. Gunnar Stockton, I think, is very much still playing his way into the Heisman Trophy conversation. He is not talked about enough. He's had 2 games this year against top 10 teams at the time where he had 5 incompletions and 5 total touchdowns. I mean, if that does not scream Heisman Trophy caliber player, I don't know what does. But the passing attack has found a rhythm. They've been able to replace what they've lost with Colby Young, with guys like Noah Thomas stepping on up, a couple of the young freshmen stepping on up, Oscar Delp having a big game, Dylan Bell stepping on up in a lot of ways, Lawson Lucky being a little bit involved in the passing attack. There's things that we're seeing right now from this offense that says, hey, Zachariah Branch, if you get the ball to him in space, he's off to the races if you get a good block. But it's more than just number one making plays, and it's more just the rushing attack. I think that Mike Bobo has played his way out of all negative connotations about his play designs because let's just be real. I mean, he was getting the brunt of it all last season. And I completely understand that. But at the same time, the dude has been in his element really since the second quarter of the Alabama game. And he's had his moments really in the second half of matchups to look at what didn't work and what has worked for this Georgia offense. And that's really been the deciding factor of why they haven't lost since the Alabama game. But I think that right now there's so many ways that Georgia can beat you. They can beat you with the slow ground and pound death march of all hell that comes in the form of them running it 17 or 18 times and winning on third down. They also can win through the air, and you've seen the explosive deep ball accuracy and the pinpointness of what Gunnar Stockton provides. So I think if you are Georgia Tech, you're going to have to force some turnovers. I think that you're going to have to make them live in third and long. I think that you're going to have to pressure this offensive line that's playing really well. And I think that you're going to have to rely on just a couple of big explosives on your end that wins the one-on-one battles at the second and third level of the defense, because Georgia's defensive line doesn't know how to end drives by getting to the quarterback. But you know what they do, Tom? They do a great job pressuring quarterbacks, and they make them have to stay inside the pocket and not maneuver outside. So they're not finishing with sacks, but they are winning in the pressure rate. So little things like that will go a long way. I agree with you. Georgia Tech, it's not a good matchup defensively for you. Offensively, it feels like that there are some lulls along the way. And also, I'm going to be completely honest. I'm very pissed at Georgia Tech for selling their soul and putting this game at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, which is basically just Bulldogs headquarters 2.0. Because you could have had this at Bobby Dodd, and you said, no, we're going to take the marketing ploy. We're going to go ahead and embrace that this is a rivalry game that needs to have merchandising sales. And as a college football stan, I'm never going to be okay with rivalry games being played anywhere other than home and home environments outside of the Cotton Bowl. It will always be that way. So you already took a hit. Like I said in the preview on SEC Unfiltered this past week, it should be a 10-0 lead for Georgia simply because if you gave up the rights to play this at Bobby Dodd Stadium, you should have a 10-0 disadvantage if you're Georgia Tech. It's not going to matter. I think that Georgia wins. I think Georgia covers. I think it's going to be something along the lines of 38-20.
The positive is that the Chick-fil-A stands will be open, which, many Falcon fans are like, what the hell? This doesn't even make any sense.
Doesn't help me. Does not help. I'm not going to be there, so I'm not going to get any Chick-fil-A.
I'm going to go 41-20 Georgia. I think this gets ugly. I think Gunnar Stockton plays a Haynes King style, but he's aware of what his deductible is, and he just plays smarter. He's completing 71% of his passes, 19 passing touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 8 rushing touchdowns, quietly having a very good season. And again, he just keeps this team on schedule. He doesn't blink. Neither does this entire team. The makeup of the team under Kirby Smart. Granted, they're not going to get their degrees, and they are going to get pulled over at some point, but they are going to win football games. That's what Georgia does. Our buddy TJ is picking Georgia 38-24. So I think we're all kind of in the same boat there.
We all agree that they're going to win, they're going to cover, and they're going to be in the college football playoff like they ever weren't going to be in the playoff.
And then they're going to speed back to Athens. All right, let's wind down on the hottest topic in college football, maybe all of sports, the future of Lane Kiffin, and also kind of Ole Miss versus Mississippi State in the Egg Bowl. I would love to talk about the game, but this feels like this is a situation where the story is Lane Kiffin.
Okay, let's talk about the game for 2 minutes, and then we'll move over to Lane Kiffin. Number one, if you are Ole Miss, you got to understand the distractions are going to be there. They just are. So instead, you have to treat this like Varsity Blues. Like, you've seen the movie, right?
Mm-hmm. Love it.
Okay, so Coach Kilmer thrown out of the locker room. They go back and they win in the second half with a brand new offense. That has to be the way. You got to treat it like Lane is leaving, even if he's not leaving, and you got to win for the state of Mississippi. This is bigger than Lane. This is all about you having the chance to represent your school and your state as a first-time representative in the college football playoff. Whether or not you end up having Lane Kiffin be on the sidelines for the playoff, an 11-1 SEC team is not being kept out. It just isn't. It's already dumb that we have to have a conversation about a 10-2 SEC team or Big Ten team being left out. And 11-1 is egregious to be left out. So you win this game, you got to be focusing on that. I need to see Trinidad Chambliss get back to his element of striking early with the deep shots down the field. Because what happens? If you can win through the air, you're able to set up the rushing attack. And Kevin Lacey is going to be, in my opinion, a favorite to leave in the offseason. But right now, he's a favorite to be a Doak Walker finalist. There's an opportunity for him to set records at Ole Miss with another 2 rushing touchdowns. I think he'd be the single season leader in rushing touchdowns. So if you're able to go ahead and win through the year with Harrison Wallace, with Daquan Wright, with Luke Haas, eventually you'll be able to win on the ground, especially inside the red zone. If you're Mississippi State, remind yourself the atmosphere, the cathedral of chaos that is Starkville is absolutely going to play a major factor. The cowbells ringing is going to be a problem. But what I look at is also, this is a big game for you because if Jeff Lebby wins this one, not only would you be bowl eligible, which automatically would be a major accomplishment for year 2, but you get a win against a top 10 team and your second win in conference play. I don't think many people are looking at Mississippi State and saying, well, they got to be in the playoff. Like they got to be a 8-win team in year 2. But it's very hard to buy into the factor of we're seeing progress when you're 0-16 in conference play. If you're able to beat Arkansas, an underqualified team, and then you're able to beat up on a top 10 Ole Miss team, there is progress there. So ultimately, those are things that are going to have to be a factor. Blake Shapen taking advantages of this pass defense. I think Davin Booth and Fluff Bothwell are going to have to be able to run rampant, especially at the first and second level of the defense. This is, again, a rivalry game. All bets are off. Thursday morning, 11 a.m. It's malpractice. This isn't on Thanksgiving. It should be on Thanksgiving, but I understand with the Lane Kiffin situation and, of course, advertising, you were taking this off of it. You don't want to ruin the holiday season. So I think that Mississippi State is a team that has taken a massive step forward. I don't think it's going to be enough to beat up on Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss really wants this one. I think Ole Miss wants to prove that they are built to go to the college football playoff. They're going to win. I think they're going to cover. I think it's going to be something along the lines of 31-21 final score. And then afterwards, we have to start talking about Lane Kiffin.
Mm-hmm. TJ picked Ole Miss 30-17 to win this thing. I think Vegas is making this line very, very interesting for everybody that's going to get involved in this. I love that this is a noon kick on Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, because we get to see the answer to the biggest question in the sport, what's going on with Lane Kiffin. And then Saturday, supposedly, we're going to get the answer of what is Lane Kiffin's future. So right now the spread is 7.5 in favor of the Rebels. Over under 62.5. The only way I see this being a game is if Ole Miss's defense just doesn't show up, because Mississippi State, given the opportunity to score points, they can do that. Ole Miss has had games this season, even the ones they won, where they can give up well over 20 points. It just depends on what happens there. I think Charlie Weiss Jr. is getting a lot of love right now on social media from the Ole Miss social media account. So I'm curious to see where all this goes, but I'm still thinking it's going to be Ole Miss against Mississippi State. Give me the Rebels 35-14. I don't think it's going to be terribly close, but The question is more with Lane. You and I and TJ were texting about this earlier on today. One of the indicators, of which there are many, unless you're camped outside of an airport in a ghillie suit, is that Chris Lowe, basically the burner account for Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss football, has predicted that Lane Kiffin is going to stay at Ole Miss, when for many weeks it seemed like Chris Lowe was leaking information that might indicate Lane Kiffin was out of there. So at this point in time, at 1:09 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday, November 26, 2025, in the year of our Lord, Cole, where do you think Lane Kiffin's going to go?
For starters, I have much respect for Chris Lowe. I always have, but he does have all the connections in the SEC. So if he is reporting something, I'm going to take it as not holy Bible, but I will say it is pretty close to common law. I don't think that you can burn the bridge the way that Lane Kiffin has at Ole Miss and then come back and think that you're okay. I think at this point, as much as I do believe that he'd be welcome back there by the committee, by the athletic staff, the fan base is tired. The fan base is wearing out its patience. And I think that he's kind of known at this point. I can say whatever I want because I'm not going to be. It's literally like the Magic Johnson meme of, I'm not going to be here. So, like, that's Lane at this moment. It feels like it doesn't matter. I'll get the job done. I'll guarantee you that this school leaves in a better place than when I found it. They'll be in the playoff. But I'm looking at Ole Miss, and I'm looking at LSU, and I know that this is a one-and-done type season. I think that LSU, I can do this on a regular basis. I think he goes to LSU on Sunday morning.
Do you think if he decides to stay, there's a universe where after the Egg Bowl, if Ole Miss beats Mississippi State, that's where he has his Wolf of Wall Street moment and says, I'm not going anywhere?
I don't think that there's going to be an announcement on Friday at all. I think that there should, but there won't be.
Because that's the first thing that's going to happen. Some reporter is going to stick a mic in his face. Where are you going?
And he's going to deny it, just like everyone else. To just go, can we talk about the game that we just won or we just lost, and now we're not going to the playoff, or now we're going to host a playoff game? Like, I think that that's what it's going to be, because of it was very clear. And like, I love the fact that Lane is like someone embracing it, going, great question, not answering it. But, you know, if you keep asking, like, again, it's a distraction that you've created for yourself and that nobody else can blame but you. But still, I mean, it is what it is. So, I don't know. I mean, a part of me thinks that he is going to stay because it is just the most Lane Kiffin thing of all, Lane Kiffin thing to troll everyone in the process. But like, dude, there are so many people who have been hurt by this. There are so many people who have been scorned and burned, and they feel betrayed by this. And again, they may believe that you're the best coach for the job, but the way that you act, I mean, you've had such good equity with this program that took a chance on you, and you took a chance on them. Like, let's be fair. Lane Kiffin needed Ole Miss as much as Ole Miss needed Lane Kiffin. It partially feels like right now, Lane Kiffin doesn't need Ole Miss as much as Ole Miss maybe needs Lane Kiffin, even though I do think that Ole Miss will be fine without him. But still, both of you have benefited off of this. You've now taken, Ole Miss is now giving you every opportunity to have your moment, do what you gotta do, play the trolling game. But now they're trying to get serious. Because if you burn them so many times, it's like, I don't know if you're kidding anymore. Like, you know when like there's the manipulative boyfriend and they're like trying to convince the girlfriend, I've done nothing wrong. Or the manipulative girlfriend, they're like, oh, I'm perfect in the relationship and you're at fault. Ole Miss has kind of gotten that cold dose of reality and the water splashed in the face of a, dude, I got to have a come to Jesus moment. Like, this is where we are. You played the part really well and I fell for it, but I'm done kind of falling for it. It's now or never, dude. I want to be with you. I see the future with you. And I will be completely honest. And this may end up coming back to bite me later on in my lifetime, whenever it's going to be on the internet, because this is what we do and we put it on the internet forever. I think if Lane Kiffin leaves, it will be the biggest mistake of his life. I do believe that if Lane Kiffin does decide to depart Ole Miss, it will end up being the biggest mistake of his career. It's like being with the really good girlfriend, but you think that the hot chick is a little bit better for you because of the looks are there, and then you realize she's got a toxic boyfriend that there was a reason why the relationship ended, and her parents are freaking vile, and it comes with a lot of money, but that money comes with a lot of terms that you can't you can't nullify without changing your persona. And the girl that you grew up with that was always like the best friend and that you dated and that you thought was going to be the one, she loved you for who you were. Now she doesn't. She moved on, had a better life with the next guy, and you are now struggling to figure out where you go next.
I agree with you because I think if Lane Kiffin leaves, there's a clock on his next job. Where right now the clock for him in Ole Miss is what, maybe another 10 years if he chooses to stay.
He
And
has
that's
bought himself over a decade of equity. But at the same time, what I will say is you don't turn down Penn State, Florida, and LSU in the same cycle if you know for a fact that you're not leaving this school. And
right.
at this point, the only place he would go afterwards is Alabama, which
Yeah.
again, you really want to throw a wild card in all this. Alabama loses, Kalen DeBoer goes to Penn State. I mean, I think if you are Alabama, you have to make that phone call. And I'll tell you what, I'm a big Ole Miss stan. I believe that Ole Miss is a team that can win with Lane there. There's a lot of expectations that there can be success there. If Alabama calls, you don't turn them down. It's like if Ohio State calls, you don't turn them down.
I think Lane Kiffin throughout his career has handled these situations extremely poorly. And he continues to. I have tried to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that, yeah, he's got his family, his faith, sobriety, all that sort of stuff. And it just seems like same old with Lane. If you leave Ole Miss, you continue to do damage to your legacy. And say you go to LSU, and in the first 3 years you don't win a national championship. How quickly do they get tired of you? We saw how that local media crushed Brian Kelly over time. Now, granted, Brian Kelly's a bit of a jerk, so they had the opportunity to do it. Who's to say Lane Kiffin's shtick doesn't get old in Baton Rouge very, very quickly? There's a clock on him if he goes somewhere else. And if he stays at Ole Miss, then he has the chance to galvanize this team to potentially make a run to the national championship this year. And also, you send a shockwave throughout the college football world that Lane is staying at Ole Miss. This is the place to be. Come to the SIP. He's been saying that for years. But it says arguably the best coach in the sport is sitting tight here. And it reinforces what we already know about college football right now at the top end is you can virtually win from anywhere with the right funding. We've seen how Texas Tech has changed itself virtually overnight. We talk about how Rhett Lashley has got everything that he could ask for at SMU and is still trying to put that thing together, but you have the resources. Nobody Mike Loxley continuing to say is like, I never come up here and complain about resources. So there are places all over the map that you can win. I don't see a reason why Lane Kiffin couldn't get it done at Ole Miss sometime in the near future. And picking up and leaving and taking everything to Baton Rouge or Gainesville, not to say that Florida's completely out of this, but it does seem like LSU makes far more sense in the grand scheme of things. I don't know. My gut says he is probably gone. I know I've said in the past, I think he's probably staying. The truth is none of us really know. But I think if he says he's leaving, his legacy is going to be forever tarnished. And I agree with you that he will regret this. He will regret leaving Oxford, Mississippi, because he has a great thing going there.
And he's probably watching all of these videos and he's sitting in his office laughing his ass off, thinking that he was ever really going to lead to begin with. Congratulations, Lane. You got the last to laugh off. I mean, let's be real. It just feels that way. Like a part of me feels like, did you burn all these bridges for no reason? Like, there's got to be a grander story here. Like, oh, I'm actually taking far superior less money to stick around at this program and use all the resources that were going to go in my bank account towards NIL. At that point, then okay, everyone can have a good joke about it. Right. But if that's not the case, then dude, you've really put yourself in a position of a point of no return.
TJ thinks Lane to LSU. You think Lane to LSU as well, correct, Cole?
Screw it. I'm going to go back to my first pick. I'm going to say Lane stays at Ole Miss. Gun to head. Chris Lowe reported it. I got to go with Chris Lowe. I trust his word when it comes to this one.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Gun to head. You got to answer now.
I know I just said moments ago to LSU, so I'll stick with that. Lane to LSU. I'll stick with that. He is Cole Thompson. I'm Tom Hannifan. Thank you to TJ Pittinger for trusting us to not burn down the house while he's gone on vacation. Happy Thanksgiving to the entire Pittinger family. Happy Thanksgiving to all of you watching here on College Football Addiction. Thank you to Sleeper for sponsoring the Power 2. We will catch you after this chaotic rivalry weekend, and we'll have all the fallout from what happens with Lane Kiffin and his future. We'll see you next time right here on College Football Addiction. This has been the Power 2.